in this learning activity, we had a problem at a school where the seventh graders just got their phones back after not having them for all of school. But going into seventh grade, they're able to move away from the school during breaks. And that's why they got their phones back, which were problematic. Their parents said that they stopped being like social in some way. Some pupils complained about that. The teachers saw them getting like more lazy. They didn't went out playing football in the breaks. They just sit on their mobile phones. So the parents actually asked the teachers to take the phones from their pupils again, which were, as we know, an unpopular opinion by among the pupils. So the teacher said, we're not going to take them right now. We're going to involve you in the process of how and why we should have the phone or not have the phone during breaks in school. So they started this investigation where the pupils needed to come up with guidelines for the school. So they needed to make recommendations for the teachers and the school board and the parents on the cell phone rules at the school. And those guidelines or recommendations should be lifted up by data. Before going into this project, they each agreed to have a test week without phones, where they tried to set up other activities where the pupils handled in their phone. First, they talked about data. What is data? How does it work? How do you collect it? And then they talked about well-being. What is well-being for pupils in school, and how is it important? So they actually used something we've created called School GPT, which is an open source free data, no data GPT for schools we created to understand the well-being questions and to understand the data and the data literacy term. And then after getting this knowledge, the pupils starting creating like the perfect questions to go around all the pupils at the seventh grade to ask them what they needed to know around well-being and cell phones in school. The questions were created by the pupils in collaboration with a large language model. So they used a technology which understand data to create a good question for collecting data. School GPT is actually created here at the Future Classroom Lab for all pupils in Denmark to be able to have a sandbox where they can write with a large language model without delivering in data or without paying. So they got all these questions. I think they got 30 questions, and the teacher set them up in this form. And then they all anonymously answered the questions regarding cell phones, why and why not, and what it does to them during the school. And then the pupils were divided into group, and they got the results of this survey. And then they needed to analyze the results, analyze the data, and visualize the data. And then for like diving into that data, they needed to come up with recommendations for what they needed to do with schools. After analyzing the data, it was clear that most pupils needed their cell phone in school time, especially in breaks, for multiple reasons. Some needed it for paying when they went out to get lunch. Some needed it to feel more safe when leaving the school area. Some needed it to be social. It was a big part of their social life if they should be social, even though it was being social with pupils or other pupils standing right next to them. They use it like as a common third, that they needed to show something or they needed to play a game together. Someone needed the phone to like being able to step back from a social activity without it being too awkward, because they needed a break. They needed to mentally have a break. Every group recommended that they should have their phone in the breaks, which was kind of funny, even though we know that some of the pupils themselves didn't feel like it was important and actually felt it was destructive. And they were actually able to change the mind of their teacher, who was very he saw problems with the phone before this project, but after doing this project, he was kind of more in doubt. And he needed to make the pupils' voice heard. Some groups who recommended that in the small break between 9:30 and 10, they shouldn't have phones, but in the big break they should. And also the other way around. There are also some pupils who recommended that regarding weather should be a factor. So if it's raining, they should have phone. If it's not raining, they shouldn't have phone. So they had all kinds of different recommendations, but common for them all was that just banning the phone, which were their parents' suggestion, would be a very bad idea. And now they're going to present these for the parents' meeting and also for the school board, and then they need to decide how they're going to do with the phone. The pupils were, before going into this, very much against the teachers taking their technology. And I think that the week they had without their phone, they needed to have something else. So they just had 3 months with their phone in their breaks. So by just removing their phones and not placing something else like board games or other activities they could take on, of course they're going to feel bored or feel like they miss something because like the phone is a big part of their life and they use a lot of time on that. I think it could be a fun activity to do multiple times, but also to involve the pupils in, okay, let's say 4 weeks a year, we take the phone away. How are we going to fill the gap that the phone creates by when we remove it with other stuff? Then maybe the pupils could be better at not having their phone and be better at finding out how to act in the world without their phone.